Cubs make a surprise signing, and they get another starting pitcher. We're going to get into Colin Ray, coming back from being a Cub Brewer. Now he's a Cub. Roki Sasaki. Are the Cubs in position to get the Japanese phenom? Jesse Rogers says he's not making a trip to Chicago. How's that going to affect the Cubs? And what happened with Kyle Tucker? Why didn't the Cubs offer him a contract that he would accept before arbitration? Because that's where they're going. We're going to get into all that right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Let's get this party started, everybody. And again, go Cubs. Thanks for being here today. What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Cubs Baseball channel. I'm Mick Gillespie. Appreciate all of you guys for being here today. A lot to talk about. It feels like there's been a lot of news, nothing huge, but stuff going on that's definitely worth talking about. And I couldn't figure out what was the bigger story here, Roki Sasaki or Colin Ray. So let's start with Colin Ray, because he is now part of the Cubs. They give him a 1-year, $5 million deal. Some people are going to say the Cubs are dumpster diving or they're bargain shopping, and it kind of does feel like that. Colin Ray pitched for the Cubs in the past and then went to Milwaukee, where he played under Craig Counsell. But when you look at the guy's numbers, I mean, maybe it's, not going out and signing the top, the Jack Flaherty's, the guys at the top of the mountain. But at the same time, the guy had 12 wins last year, 12-6 record, and a 4.29 ERA. And what we're seeing the Cubs do is, as they're signing players that had winning records last year. Now, does that matter? Some of you guys are going to go, no, it doesn't matter. See, I think it does matter. I think winners win. And you want to go out there and get as many guys that can help you win as possible. And then, from there, you hope that you turn that into success. But the other thing I like about Ray is not only the 12-6 record and the 32 starts, 32 games rather, and 27 starts, but that the guy's almost thrown 300 innings in the last 2 seasons. Now, you could look at that and say, hey, he's going to fall apart here. But from my vantage point, I'm going, there's guys that are durable. I mean, he's a 93-mile-an-hour thrower. It's not like he's one of these guys that's going to go out there and try to gorilla ball it. Like, he's not going to try to throw it as hard as he can every single time. But 49 starts, 58 games over 2 seasons, and 292 innings. I mean, that is really consistent pitching. And I think that it's definitely something for the Cubs as you put him into this rotation. Now, where does he slot in this rotation? I'd say towards the back. But what you want are guys that are going to give you innings. And I think something that Craig Counsell has definitely tried to push through the organization is having pitchers that give you innings. And it's that also save your bullpen. So when you break down what Ray throws, I always think this is interesting. What direction are the Cubs going, and what kind of pitcher do they want? He's a sinker cutter guy, threw more sinkers and cutters than anything else, but some 4-seamers as well, slider, splitter, and curveballs. Not many curveballs, but that was his mix for the most part. And honestly, his sinker was by far the pitch he threw the most, but cutter, 4-seamer, and slider really pretty much even. A little, maybe a couple more cutters than 4-seamers, and then splitters and curveballs behind that. But he can mix it up pretty good. And, that's something that the Cubs are going to want. I mean, depending on what's working and obviously what the wind conditions are at Wrigley. I mean, I think that's always an issue for the Cubs is, what's going on with the weather at Wrigley Field. So now you add another starter to the mix. And you look at the rotation, and, obviously Shota Imanaga and Justin Steele are at the top, Jameson Tyone, and then you go from behind there, Matthew Boyd. I would say that Colin Ray maybe ahead of Boyd. You got Javier Assad that can start. Maybe you're going to use him as, someone out of the bullpen. And then Jordan Wicks and then Ben Brown. Those guys are at spring training. Brown, we've seen pictures of him throwing. Same thing with Cade Horton, someone that could be a dark horse in this whole Cubs rotation. This wasn't the home run that the Cubs were hoping to hit, but it's definitely a pitcher. They're loading up on arms, and that it's going to take a lot of pitching to get through the season. So, for $5 million, It is what it is, right? I don't know that it's bargain shopping, but I know some of you guys are going to be in the comment section saying that. All right, switching gears to a pitcher that the Cubs would love to get, and that is Roki Sasaki, right? So he's got until January 15th, and then he's got like a week after that to make a decision on where he's going to end up this. And what's crazy is that he could end up anywhere because he gets to pick, but he doesn't really get the money that he deserves, right? He's only going to make, $7.5 million at the most because of the collective bargaining agreement, his age, and international bonus and signing rules, right? So the Cubs are pushing hard, but Jesse Rogers, our friend, we've had him on the channel before, ESPN 1000 Chicago, one of the best in the business, says that he hasn't heard that Roki is going to make a Chicago visit and that he is probably visiting other areas, right? I've heard the Yankees, I've heard the Giants, I've heard the Padres, obviously the Dodgers, and everybody's starting to say, hey, this looks like it's going to be a Padres signing. Yu Darvish is there. It's on the West Coast. Japanese players do like to be on the West Coast because it's just a little bit shorter flight home. They can get there without having to do layovers. And so, maybe that's a possibility. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't end up with the Dodgers just because it seems like everybody else is these days. But not good news. You're not really hearing a whole lot of buzz. Now, what I do want to say is before you get the idea that the Cubs are out of this, just remember last year when they were going after Shota Imanaga. Now, their names were in it, but at the same time, no one really thought that it was going to be the Cubs. Everybody thought it would be the Giants. The Red Sox were in it. And then at the end, he ended up loving Chicago. We didn't know it at the time, but he was actually hanging out there, and that's where he wanted to pitch. And the Cubs ended up getting him on a great deal. This would be a great deal for any team that gets Sasaki. So, we'll keep an eye on that. And then the final thing on today's show is about Kyle Tucker and his arbitration. And this is a weird situation for me because I know that front offices don't like players taking them to arbitration. I don't know the players' point of view in this. I just know that front offices don't like that, and that some, player front office relationships have definitely been affected and some even ended based on the way that these negotiations go, and players and front offices wanting to work a deal out and not go to arbitration. Well, the bottom line is that Tucker hasn't played a game for the Cubs, and the Cubs are reportedly offering somewhere in the neighborhood of 15,000, and that he wants 17,500, right? Or excuse me, I say thousand. Let me make that million. $17.5 million, right? And he's going to make that when it's all said and done, right? If he puts up the numbers that he's capable of putting up, the Cubs are certainly going to pay him that money, or somebody is, at the end of the year. But it feels like this front office is really trying to budget shop. They're trying to count every single dollar. You feel like there's definitely a hard line on how much money they can spend because, you look at it, and in baseball terms, $2.5 million doesn't seem like that's a lot of money. But you know what? That's a reliever. That could be a damn good reliever too, for $2.5 million, right? So that's probably why they're pushing it. I'm guessing that somewhere in arbitration, they'll make a compromise in there, and both sides will probably say, hey, we could have done that without all of this. But, that's not the case here. And the Cubs got all the other arbitration done. But the only thing I worry about is if the Tucker camp has hard feelings based on the fact that the Cubs took them, wouldn't give them the contract that they wanted, and this thing went to arbitration, if the Cubs want to sign him at the end of the year for next season. And that could happen, or it might not. I mean, who knows? Maybe this is just the beginning of the relationship. But I just found it to be a little bit odd that they weren't able to get this done. But then I looked on the other side of it and I said, as a business, they're probably saying, hey, what we need right now is to have all of our resources on the table and make the most out of everything that we have. And maybe that $2.5 million to them is a lot of money. I know you guys are going to be in the comment section telling me that it shouldn't be a big deal because the Cubs are a big market team. And I'm not going to. Well, that does it for today's show. All of you guys that are at Cubs convention, have a great time. I have been to many Cubs conventions. Absolutely love the entire event. I know that you guys are going to do that as well, whether you're getting autographs or you're sitting through panels. I can't tell you how much fun it was to host panels with Chris Bryant, Javi Baez, Kyle Schwarber, Anthony Rizzo. Back when the Cubs won the World Series, the year before that, all of those like golden year Cubs conventions were fantastic. And I'm excited about Sammy Sosa, and our friend John Lieber is going to be there. And I know Jody Davis is going to be there. So one of these, maybe next year, I'm going to be back up there again. But you guys have a fantastic time. Get in the comments section. Tell me what you guys love about Cubs convention. If you're there, send me some pics too. Would love to see how it's going for everyone. And then for the rest of us that are watching, we'll enjoy you guys as you do it. So go Cubs. Thanks for hanging out, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.